Welcome to McKnight Tonight. Now, here's Rob McKnight.
Hello and welcome to McKnight Tonight. It is Wednesday, the 8th of October, which did you know is International Lesbian Day? Hey, did any of you tune in for the 50th episode big stream we did over the weekend where we ran all 50 episodes back to back plus the pilot? I know people were dipping in and out. Some of us started at 10 p.m. We were watching it. I really should have started it at like 8 in the morning or something like that. Listen for the 100th, maybe. Hey, guess what? We've finally done it. I'm going to hit this button. Say hello, Amanda.
Hi, everyone. It works. Oh, my goodness.
It does work.
Now it's my show.
Button off. Look, don't forget, we're streaming full episodes and bonus content on our YouTube page. Hit subscribe, hit the bell at youtube.com/@McKnight It's a big show tonight. Coming up tonight, content creators feel the full force of the law as victims they prank strike back. New South Wales has a plan to scrap construction zone speed limits out of hours. This is a good move. Some of the world's biggest comedians are under fire for taking part in a comedy festival, and why I'm really upset with Susan Lee with something she did in Parliament. That will be tonight's Rob's Rant. And we'll be speaking to a detainee who has just been released by Israel. They'll be joining us from Jordan. All that and plenty more in this edition of McKnight Tonight. All right, let's get into our hot topics. And if there's one thing I can't stand, it's those content creators who pull pranks on members of the public. But now we're starting to get justice. A French influencer has been jailed for 6 months for faking syringe attacks on unsuspecting members of the public in a viral prank video. Yes, faking syringe attacks. Have a look at what he did to people just going about their business on the street.
Vous avez menti. Ça va pas? Qu'est-ce que tu fais là?
Mais, depuis le mois d'octobre, chien, ben, casse-toi.
Ah! What are you doing?
What the fuck? What the fuck? Who the fuck are you? Ça va pas, non? Connard, casse-toi.
I think this is horrific. Imagine being there. So many things would go through your mind. What has this person just injected into me? Is it HIV? Is it some kind of disease? Like the amount of fear. And he's a muscly guy. So, you know, you don't know if it's a joke. You don't know if it's real. And am I going to take him on? You know, police received 145 reports of needle spiking during a June music festival when he was making these videos, although few concrete cases were found. But if you were on the receiving end of this prank, you would certainly be scared. You would be freaking out. But then these pranksters will go, I'm just mucking around. What are you so scared of? This is a scary scenario. I don't know how there can be joy derived by this. And while this guy can thank his lucky stars he only got jailed, he was jailed for 6 months, other pranksters haven't been so lucky. 2 years ago, a delivery driver in Virginia, he was found not guilty after he shot a YouTube prankster in a shopping mall. The victim, 21-year-old, and I say victim, this is the guy who was the YouTube prankster who got shot, but in this scenario, he is the victim. He was 21-year-old Tanner Cook. Now, he is behind the channel Classified Goons. He was shot, he survived, after he trailed the delivery driver through a mall food court while playing odd audio from his phone at point blank range. Have a look at this video and tell me what you would do in this situation.
What?
Hey, quit thinking about my twinkle.
What's that mean?
Hey, quit thinking about my twinkle.
No.
Hey, quit thinking about my
Get
twinkle.
out of my face and call house. Stop.
Hey, quit thinking about my twinkle.
Stop.
This is going to sound harsh. I have no sympathy for him. Now, do I want to see that YouTuber die? Absolutely not. But this guy was fearful. You've got this bigger guy standing over you with a phone. You've got no idea what's going on. It's an intimidating act. Now, that's a big sign of America's gun culture. But as far as I'm concerned, that YouTuber has no right to complain. And in fact, the jury acquitted Alan Colley. That was the person. They acquitted him of aggravated malicious wounding, siding with his claim of self-defense. Of course it was self-defense. But on lesser firearm counts, they were split, the jury was split, convicting him on one and acquitting him on the other. And the YouTuber said he didn't seem like he was fearing for his life. He didn't seem scared. The guy didn't know what was going on. They didn't know what to do. If you want to make content, great. There are some, there are videos where husbands and wives are pranking each other around the house. I'm all for it. That's fun. That's fine. Except Amanda's not going to allow me to do that. But this kind of thing where you're attacking unsuspecting people in public to get YouTube hits, you get what's coming to you. I've shown videos where they've done that, walk past and gone ding, like they're taking money from your phone, and people have started firing back. It's going to get worse. Fire back. Don't shoot, but in my view, you are right to defend yourself, and that absolutely is self-defense. What do you think? Let me know. I mean, there's no doubt that video is shocking where he shoots him, but geez, I would be scared if I was in his position. If I had a gun, I don't know. Maybe I would never carry a gun, but if I had a gun, you might be tempted. Anyway, look, finally, some relief for frustrated motorists. The New South Wales government has announced plans to lift construction zone speed limits when no workers are present. Hallelujah. The change will mean roads can return to their normal speed limits outside of active work hours, ending the days of crawling through empty roadworks. It comes as part of the Transport Legislation Amendment Bill 2025, which sets new rules for when and how roadwork signs are displayed. Safety will still come first. Limits will remain in place where road conditions or barriers pose a risk. But the Minns government says the reform will make life easier for drivers while keeping workers protected. I have a go at politicians a lot on this show, but this gets a clap. How many times have you been driving at night? They've been working on the road during the day, but there is no problem, and they're supposed to be doing 40 kilometres in what is usually an 80 or 100 zone, but the roadwork signs are up because no one can be bothered taking them down at night because they will be back tomorrow, but you're there. And then they say speed zones are enforceable. This is righting a much needed wrong. Every state needs to do this. Surely it's a no-brainer. I mean, there's probably someone who's arguing with it, Amanda. Who knows? But if you are, you're an idiot. Get out, get out, get out. I love this. I love it because I don't mind when there are workers there. I absolutely understand the need to be doing 40 kilometres an hour. There's lives, it's reduced ability to drive through, no problems at all. But when they've gone home and the roads are wide again and there's no issue, put those limits back up. This is a no-brainer. I just say thank you. It's good to have some good news. See, I can be happy about things sometimes, but not now because it's time for this. Now, something happened in federal parliament yesterday that I did not like. At the beginning of question time, both the Prime Minister and opposition leader, they spoke about the terrible events of October 7. Yesterday marked the second anniversary, which saw Hamas-led fighters launch a multi-pronged attack and assault on Israel, killing 1,200 people and abducting about 250. Now, look, in a moment, shortly, I will be speaking to one of the detainees from that flotilla that was going into Gaza, an Aussie. I'm speaking to Bianca Webb-Pullman. She'll be joining me shortly. But before that, I'd like to think that whatever your politics, you can agree it was a horrible event. But I know we don't live in that world. Anthony Albanese got up and reflected on the tragic event. But when Susan Lee got up, she turned it into a political attack. Have a look.
I wish that today, as we mark this dark milestone, I could reflect on the strength of Australia's response. I wish I could be able to say that Australia did all it could to help release the hostages, end the violence and dismantle the terrorist group Hamas. Yet to do so would be a lie. To our great shame, under the leadership of the Albanese Labor government, Australia has not stood with the people of Israel, nor with the United States, as they have sought to dismantle Hamas and establish the conditions for peace. To our great shame, the Albanese Labor government dragged its feet, listing Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist organisation. 2 years on, we stand apart from our friends in this time of their greatest need. 2 years on, Australia has failed to stand firm in the face of terror. Australia has been lauded by Hamas and condemned by Israel and by the United States. Australia could have stood firm, and to their great credit, millions of Australians have. But those Australians and our Jewish community have been failed by their government. We have allowed hate to take root onto our streets and into our communities. As homes still smouldered in Israel, here in Australia, protesters hijacked a vigil at the Sydney Opera House with cries of "Where's the Jews?"
I think it's okay for that last part where you're talking about what's going on. But this was a moment of reflection and remembering what had happened 2 years ago. And you could even see it, the Labor side were looking at like, what's going on? What's she doing? And I didn't like it. I didn't like the way she used a solemn moment like this to attack the government. There's plenty of other opportunities. Once we got into the questions, you could have gone for your life. You could have said, on this day, do you stand by the decisions you've made? Whatever, right? But this was a special speech they were both giving to remember this day, October 7. Remember when those pictures first came through. And it just didn't, I was watching Question Time Live, it just didn't seem appropriate. I was genuinely shocked by it. And Susan Lee keeps doing this. There's no solidarity with our country. She wrote to all the Republicans and said, we will not recognise Palestine. Well, you're not the government. And in this situation, you have a senior position as the opposition leader. You could have been dignified and make your point. And once you're in a question time, go for your life. Call out Labor, everything. Call out on how the government has handled the whole Israel situation. No problems. But at that moment, in a time of reflection, it really, really wasn't appropriate. Susan Lee, you need to do better. Otherwise, you are not going to last. The vultures are circling, and you will not be the opposition leader for long. Mark my words. All right, still plenty to come on this edition of McKnight Tonight, including my interview with Bianca Webb-Pullman, who was one of the 7 Aussies detained in that flotilla when Israeli forces came and got them. She was with Greta Thunberg. And so we will hear from her very shortly. She'll be joining me from Jordan before she returns to Australia on Friday. May even fit in another topic. We'll see. And I'll get to your feedback. But of course, we need a random live shot of the day.
It's the random live shot of the day. Where are you going today? You never know where you'll end up with the random live shot of the day.
And tonight we are heading to, where are we heading to? The English countryside for our random live shot of the day. This is the North Yorkshire Moors Railway at Grosmont, one of Britain's most famous heritage lines. You can see that steam engine on the right there. Earlier tonight, it was on the left-hand side. We got a great view, but it's over on the right at the moment. The line dates back to the 1830s and still runs classic steam engines through the stunning moorlands of Yorkshire. It's a favourite spot for train enthusiasts, and you can see why. Whether it's the sound of the whistle or the sight of the smoke drifting across the hills, there's something truly timeless about it. There is something. I love a steam train. When we lived in Sydney, we used to go to, what was that? Lithgow, and go on the zigzag railway all the time. And they had Harry Potter versions. They had Thomas the Tank Engine. And one time, Amanda and I even got to go up the front, didn't we, Amanda? Hey, I'm going to put that audio on, didn't we? It was totally worth it. Oh, hang on, I turned you off. There's a fact of life. Oh, I don't even know if we can hear you. You might need to pull it closer to you. All right, let's get some feedback that's coming through to McKnight tonight on this Wednesday night. Someone forgot his razor, and you're crazy, says. What do we think of the beard? Over the page we go. Beard is doing well. Thank you very much, Radio Notes. What do you think? What does everyone make of Beardy McKnight? I like it. I just thought I'd do something different. Matthew says, with the new microphone for Amanda. Hello, Amanda. Over the page we... Hang on, did you turn it on?
Yeah. You keep turning it off. That's the problem.
True. Radio Notes podcast says, Amanda, welcome to the microphone. Well, I have to turn it off because it gets echoey. That's the excuse. Matthew says, now this is on the YouTube creators, that syringe one. It's assault with a weapon like a plastic gun. You don't know at the time. Yeah, exactly. You don't know what's going on. Over the page, and your crazy says, is that assault? I would argue it is. I would absolutely argue it is. Jeanette says, that is scary, as you don't know what they've got. Absolutely. As I think Matthew just said, it is like if someone's holding a fake gun at you, you don't know it's fake. Keith says, hello, Keith. I love McKnight tonight. Keith, thank you so much. We love you too. Keep the feedback coming, Keith. Own You're Crazy says, exactly. It's a deer in the headlights moment. Anxiety and panic set in. Lord knows what could happen. We've also got this one over the page from Jeanette that says, yes, you're right to protect yourself, but like you, Rob, I never have a gun or carry one. Well, yes. This is why I'm glad we don't have guns in Australia. Philip says on Facebook, pranks are for people that know each other well and not for performing on strangers. You may know how friends will react, but not how the stranger will react. Yes, absolutely. And if you cop a punch in the face, I don't care. Own Your Crazy says, with the new microphone, does Amanda want to rant? What would you want to rant about, Amanda?
Rob.
I don't... Tap the microphone. Is that coming... Oh, yeah, that is coming through. Sorry. She's such a delicate flower. Michael T says, we need to stop calling these social media attention seekers pranksters. They are intimidating creeps who like to make people fearful for clicks and shares. They deserve the consequences. Yes, Michael, I absolutely agree with you. Thank you for your feedback. And Your Crazy says, what was Susan Lee hoping to achieve? Grandstanding over a terrible event to score points. She wonders why there's hate in the community. Time to smarten up. Couldn't agree more with you, Own Your Crazy. Thank you so much for that. I will have more feedback soon. Plenty ahead on this edition of McKnight Tonight, but time to get to a very important interview.
Here comes McKnight Tonight.
Well, you might remember last week I spoke with Julie Webb-Pullman on the day her daughter Bianca was intercepted by the Israeli Navy. Bianca was one of 7 Australians who were part of the global flotilla, a convoy attempting to break the blockade of Gaza. Activist Greta Thunberg was also detained. Now, as you can imagine, Julie was very worried about her daughter, but she was also upset about the lack of help from the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. Bianca Webb-Pullman has now been released and joins me on the phone. Bianca, thanks for joining us. How are you feeling tonight?
I'm much better than I was. So since being released, I've been eating again because I was on hunger strike during my time in Israel, and I've had a decent night's sleep on a nice mattress. And I've had my medication, which I was denied in prison, so I'm feeling much better.
Okay, what did you go through? Did you say you went on a hunger strike?
Yes, a number of us on the flotilla went on a hunger strike, basically because we had been abducted in international waters, taken to a country we had, no intention of travelling to, and in protest at our treatment.
The whole thing about mobile phones being thrown overboard, was that you guys throwing them over, or was that the Israeli
that
forces?
Was us.
And why
that was definitely us doing that. Well, because, we're talking about a force that had already, we'd had 2 strikes by drone strikes on our boats. These are not people that had good intentions towards us.
So you were worried about them getting your information?
Absolutely, 100%. So we did not want them having access to our information, so we were throwing them overboard for that reason.
And what happened while you were detained?
We were denied any phone calls. We were denied any medication. We were, women were denied sanitary pads and bleeding through their clothes. Women had their hijabs ripped off and denied them. We repeatedly called for medication for various people and doctors. So we were yelling for doctors for hours, literally, at different points in time. One part that was particularly memorable was when we were all sort of huddled in a cage. They had 57 people in a small cage and women, and we were repeatedly yelling for a doctor for a woman. And it was a Jewish American woman that was asking and yelling and asking for, well, she wasn't yelling, she was asking for a doctor. And the guard said, if you don't shut up, we'll gas you.
What? Wow.
Yes, exactly. And you've got 57 people that were in that cage, or however many. I think we counted, and there were around 57 people.
That is a hell of a...
We counted exactly 57. Yeah,
Bianca, that is a big claim to make.
Hello. Well, I tell you what, you've got plenty of witnesses for that one. And that's people from all over the world.
I'm genuinely shocked to hear that, especially with the history of Israel and Jewish people.
Yep, and this is saying this to an American Jewish woman. And this was really, they've made, there's just so many examples of incidents like that. That's probably the most jarring if you just think of the history and the context.
Yeah.
Another one, a black woman being called a monkey and do you want a banana? Was just these minor ones. These are sort of minor, I say minor, it's not really minor. But there were just so many of these smaller incidents.
This is not how we expect citizens of countries that are partners, that are allies of Israel, to be treated. The way
they treated us, I can tell you, right, 100%, these are not our friends. These are not our allies. These are people that took great pleasure in humiliating us, and demonising us and calling us terrorists, accusing us of supporting Hamas, also saying, how much were you paid to do this? Surely, they just wouldn't believe. Some of these guards just, found it ridiculous that we would have done this of our own volition, and, accusing us of, like I said, terrorism, Hamas support, all of these sort of things. And this was an ongoing thing. This was throughout 4 days. Even just the thing of having these men with those riot shields and helmets and batons and guns. They've got those massive rifles or whatever they are, and marching into, banging on the door and making us all go in the corner to count us. And the other thing I forgot to mention, in the exercise yard, which I was allowed, in my cell, we got one shower during the 4 days and we got one break of 15 minutes to walk around in the yard. The rest of the time we were locked in our cell. In that yard, they have this big, huge sign saying, with a photo of devastated Gaza, with saying the new Gaza on it. And then they put on continuous loop recordings of October 7 that some women were forced to sit down and watch that before they left. The rest of us, it was just all on loop the whole time in the background. And yeah, look, as a doctor, the things that for me, one of the most stressful things was having people calling for a doctor for literally hours at various occasions. And I'm on 2 cells away from these people. And, okay, there's not much I could have done, but to hear that and not be able to help those people was extremely difficult. Yeah.
Let me ask
And, there were people in the men's... Yep.
Sorry, go on.
I was going to say there were people in the men's prison with diabetes and insulin, and those people were denied the insulin, which I only heard this through because we didn't see the men except when we were with our consul or after the whole thing, after we were shipped out of there. But I personally know one of those people with diabetes, and to be denied insulin when you that's got serious health implications. So to hear that he'd been subjected to that, it's just,
Was there sleep deprivation? Was there actually anything that was?
Well, this was, it sort of depends what you classify as sleep deprivation. They would wake us up in the middle of the night and yell at us and make us get up and move to the back of the prison thing to count us. So, it was extremely disruptive. And as for prolonged periods of sleep deprivation, that didn't occur in my experience. But yeah, and then so, having our clothes taken, a lot of people were kicked, hit, or whatever.
So hang on, when you say your clothes were taken, were you forced to be in these cells naked?
No, what it was is that they made us go into a cubicle and take off some of our clothes, strip down for a search or whatever. Right. Then we were allowed to put back our clothes. We weren't allowed to put our jackets on it for quite a long time. I don't know why, but they just said no, even though it's cold inside. And and then they took all of our possessions, and it was really basically one thing that is hard to convey is a humiliating behaviour, because we each had this particular police officer or whatever they were going with us and barking orders at us and pointing and commanding us, like with, it was just humiliating, that aspect of it. We had all of our bags and everything taken off us. They'd open our bag and go and just get everything out of it and throw it into the rubbish bin right in front of us, including our medication. So They got my medication, threw it in the bin. I said, I need it. It's really important. I need that medication. No, too bad. They didn't answer me. Then they saw my stethoscope because I'm a doctor, and they said, oh, you're another doctor, because there was another one ahead of me that had gone through. And I said yes, and then he threw that into the rubbish bin. I was like, why? Give it back. Like, what? Why are you taking it? And the answer was, you're not allowed to bring that into Israel. You're not allowed to bring these things into Israel. And it's like, we did not come to Israel. We were abducted in international waters. But anyway, that's an aside.
Well, it's a big aside because
away.
It was international waters. But look, I mentioned in the introduction that your mum, who I spoke to last week, she was really worried about you, but she was furious about the lack of support from DFAT. Was she right to be angry?
Well, the problem is when I was in there, I signed a form saying that my information could be provided to my mother and my partner, and I said that I was fine. I gave that message. And as for any more information or anything like that, I don't actually know much about what else was or wasn't conveyed. I know that I was fine and that I did pass that message out. And beyond that, there was some kind of printed report reports that the other families received, I believe, that she was denied. But that's all I know about that.
Okay, well,
I don't
the
know.
Australians, yourself and the other Australians, were the last to be released. Now, Juliet Lamont was also detained, and she says it was because of the lack of support from our government. Have a listen to what she said.
We are finally out, and it was a really long process, and the Australian government is absolutely shameful in our extraction. They have not really supported us at all. We were the last people out of 50 nationalities. We were left there probably, we thought, because it was the October the 7th, that we would be left there to wither. And now we are here with not much support, but we're out.
Does that match up with your experience?
Well, look, the problem being in there is we have absolutely no idea what's going on. So we did have those 2 brief visits from the acting consul, and, you know, we weren't really, I mean, I don't know what the process is for getting people out of there, but we were among the last to get out. Why that is, I don't know, and it is really a question for DFAT because, you know, is it some failure on their part? Is it some inaction on their part? All I know is we were the last ones amongst the last in there. That's what I know, and yeah. Which
must have been very scary. But there's been this is causing a lot of conversation here, and all sides of politics are having their say. But what about the idea that you chose to go into a war zone, and so should the government have to rush to your aid?
Now, I think it's really important to understand what we were doing. We were taking humanitarian aid, we were taking food, we were taking medication to people who have been under forced starvation, under a genocide, who also, this illegal siege has been going on since 2007. This isn't something that happened since October 7. That's a lawful mission. It is lawful for us to take that aid to those people, and there is absolutely no jurisdiction that Israel has on us providing that aid or our ability to travel to Gaza. So that is illegal in humanitarian law. It's also maritime law to abduct us at sea like that. As for, you know, we should or shouldn't have done it. Look, this is a deep moral failure on the part of international governments, including the Australian government, to apply sufficient pressure to Israel for them to change this policy, for them to end this genocide. So none of us, I don't think there's a single person on any of those boats that wanted to be there. We did not want this to be necessary. We did not want this level of starvation, this inhuman crimes to be going on for 2 years without our government stepping up. We had a moral obligation to do that. You know, we all took time out of our busy lives. We all, you know, would have lost income, put our families through an enormous amount of stress to go and do this stuff. And, you know, how are we supposed to sleep at night? We've spent 2 years doing our best, protesting, signing petitions, open letters. I'm a doctor. We had you know, memorial vigils for the doctors that have been killed. We had protests asking for doctors to be protected, ends to the attacks on healthcare systems. Over 1,580 doctors at last count medical workers, including nurses, paramedics, had been killed by Israel before we embarked on this flotilla. This is not just a decision we made lightly. It's something we felt a deep moral obligation to do. As for, you know, blaming us for this, the blame lies with two parties in my mind, which is Israel for perpetuating this genocide, and from the Australian government for failing to take any action. So we were, you know, as people around the world, you know, we had to take action. We have to end this genocide. We have to end the starvation. We have to end the oppression of the Palestinian people. And if it takes us doing that, then that's what should, you know, happen. And we are protected under international law. This is a completely lawful mission. There is absolutely no justification for anybody
the fact that you're international
any
waters
obstacles in our path.
Is one of the things that bothers me. But look, when it comes to what's going on, we obviously had the events of October 7. We've had the then pushback from Israel towards Hamas. There is hopes of peace.
Let's not
and
call a
two-state
genocide
solution.
pushback.
Well,
look, that entirely depends on Israel.
I do not claim to know enough about this topic. I do not have the passion that you have for it. It worries me. It worries me that so much death has happened in Palestine, and I do think there are issues from Israel. So please do not think for one moment that I am just there supporting. Having said that, I found the events of October 7 horrific, and so I will categorically state that.
Yes.
But some of the things I have seen happening in Gaza have also been horrific. So, you know, do not take me the wrong way, and I'm not passing judgment. I support people who believe in something so passionately and go and follow that through. So that's why I've been fascinated to talk to you. And I do have concerns about what happened in international waters. I really do. And I do think DFAT are always slow to support Australians. And if it was an American that had been captured, I think America reacts and protects their people much faster than Australia does.
It's not true. It's actually completely inaccurate on this occasion. Americans were... Yes, they've had atrocious treatment from their consul, who just essentially said to them, there is nothing we can do for you. This is all in Israel's hands. We have no control over anything.
Well, that's not true.
They were...
I mean, America
that's exactly what they were told.
Something. Yeah. We
Absolutely.
know America can do
and that's
something.
what...
That's a choice.
Absolutely. And so we have one person who is a dual Australian and American citizen who actually was on his American passport, who was, because of the treatment he received from that consul, being told they were on their own, they had no money, they had no phone, they had no nothing, and they were just told, too bad, you know, you get on this plane and that's it. He actually came and approached the Australian consulate for assistance, and they've been helping him. So they were actually, you know what, they've been singled out for especially poor treatment.
Well, there you go.
And so, exactly. But when you consider the regime that's in power there, that fits in because they are, you know, obviously have a lot of interests in common with Israel. They are serving the same mission, essentially. So it's natural that their citizens would be punished more than the rest of us.
Okay, Bianca. Well, you'll be back on Australian soil on Friday, which I'm sure will make you more than happy. Thank you for joining us on McKnight Tonight.
Here comes McKnight Tonight.
I'm a bit blown by what I've heard in there. I've always thought America protected their citizens more than Australia ever did, but we've seen in going by what Bianca said that in this occasion it wasn't the case. And what they went through, here's the thing. Whatever you think about the politics of what Bianca believes, she was in international waters. I have major problems with any country taking citizens from international waters. And I don't know, I think one of the problems here is Israel, October 7 happens. It's got all the goodwill in the world. And then, I mean, there's so much going on in Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu is desperate to cling on to power. If he loses power, he faces some serious court action, or he's got some problems on. He needs to hold on to power. War is good for holding on to power. And so I think there's so much, and that's when I say I don't understand every nuance of what's going on, and I will openly put my hands up. I'm never going to be someone who sits here and goes, oh, McKnight knows it all. If I know it all, I'll tell you, don't you worry. But on a subject like this that goes back so far and there's so much history of it, I don't claim to know it all. But what I will do is judge both sides on the things that have happened. I think Israel have done themselves a lot of harm in the goodwill. Like, after the events of October 7, it is hard to believe we are now here, where anti-Semitism has risen. Remember, when I was growing up, if you were labelled an anti-Semite, that was the end of your career. That was cancel culture. That was a lightning rod. Now people are wearing it as a badge of honor. And so how did Israel go from having the world on its side after the events of World War II to being in this position now where there are people actively going up against the Jewish people? And I hate it, because the Jewish people are good people. American people are good people. There are people in charge who are not good people. And so, and I have seen some things happen in Gaza, not personally, not there, but on the television and via reports, that have really troubled me. And I do think civilians are being targeted. All right, let's have a look at some feedback coming through to McKnight tonight, because we've been doing a lot. Gareth D says, so much chatter on this topic, but so few people talk about the evil of Hamas. If only the Palestinians had agreed to a two-state solution many years ago. And they came so close. That's the thing that gets me, but there was always something that stopped it. And You're Crazy says, perhaps Israel was freezing Australia out because of our government's recognition of the Palestinian state. Well, I hope not, because we are still, as a country, very close to Israel. But many nations around the country are recognising the Palestinian state as a two-state solution without Hamas. Again, very complicated. Matthew says, how is this not front-page news and taken from international waters? Well, I tell you what, Matthew, you don't need front-page news. You don't need the mass media. You've got McKnight tonight. Come here for your news, my friend. Come here for the news. Michael T says, this has been such an enthralling interview. It's important to hear about incidents like this and not have them silenced. I cannot imagine going through something like this. I agree, Michael. I agree. And that's why I let it go long. It was a longer interview, but sometimes I think we have to do that. And if you can't do it on the internet, where can you do it? Own Your Crazy says, defects, lack of action. This is something Susan Lee could take the government to task over during question time or Senate estimates. Yes, she could. The problem is she's backed herself into a corner where Israel can do nothing wrong. She's actively approaching Republicans in the United States saying, we will undo Australia's recognition of a Palestinian state. She has gone behind the back. She attacked Anthony Albanese, as we saw, about, as I spoke about earlier, about the events of October 7 and what we've done since. The problem is she can only be supportive of Israel. There can't be nuance. And the problem is we live in a nuanced world where politicians still want us to see the world in black and white. We're smarter than that. And the people that watch this show are smarter than that. Well, that's the feeling I get when I see the feedback coming through. That's the feeling I get. Oh, look, You're Crazy has picked up on something. Verified phones did get thrown overboard. Yes, I believe I was saying that I didn't think they did, but they did. That's why I asked the question. I'm not afraid to be wrong. So I think it was Restoration Archive, I want to say, who was very big on that. Justine says, people will do anything for content, become famous, no respect for others. And that is regarding the videos we saw. Maybe that's Amanda. You'll do anything for content? Is that what we're saying? What's your content, Amanda? Well, Matthew says regarding your rant, Amanda's rant sounded like my hands. Rob. Oh, Philip says, lol, Rob. That's this house. Rob. Me hiding, trying to watch a bit of TV. Rob.
I agree.
That's true, isn't it? Gareth D says, loving Rob's facial hair. Loving Rob's facial hair just in time for spring. Thank you, Gareth. Really do appreciate that. Love all your feedback. We will be back tomorrow. I think we've got a bit long for a backhand quickie. I'll try and fit one in tomorrow. And I've got a great backhand quickie about Jaden Smith, Will Smith's son, the kids on another planet. All right. Thank you for your company tonight. We will be back tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. That's 8 p.m. in Queensland, 6 p.m. in WA, I think, 8:30 in South Australia. And I'm sorry, you're going to have to work out the rest. I'm Rob McKnight. It's good night from McKnight. See you tomorrow.